So, hello everyone. Today I'm joined by a wonderful filmmaker. You know him from films such as My Brother Nikhil, I Am, Kuchh Bheege Alfaaz, Bas Ek Pal, and that person is none other than Onir. Thank you so much, Onir, for taking the time to do this. It's lovely to have you.
Pleasure, pleasure being.
Onir, I want to start by talking about your early career. Um, you've worked in various positions besides being a producer, writer, director. Earlier, you were an editor. You're an art director, a music producer, and you've been in this business for quite some time. So, how did you pick up the skills of screenwriting and direction when you started working out? When you started working?
See, the thing is, I always wanted to be direct. The basic goal that I always had. And then when I was in college, I was doing film studies. Then I went for my editing training to Berlin. And when you're doing a course in editing or cinematography, whatever, you're also exposed to the basics of the other departments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the basic introduction, about to writing. uh, and then when I started working in the film industry, one was automatically exposed to various aspects of filmmaking. Working as an editor, primarily, mostly I worked as that, though I worked as art director, whatever. You are, as an editor, constantly seeing the footage where you're also learning what to do, apart from what to do as a director. For filmmakers, especially when we started making films, because it was not the digital era. So, negative is expensive. So how much you shoot for was very important, that you plan properly. And for that, I think editing really, really helped, because you started editing right from when you're scripting,
Mm-hmm.
the way you visualize your film. A lot of my learning, be it in terms of direction, be in terms of script writing, came from my experience as an editor.
Mm. Your first film, My Brother Nikhil, is based on the life of the AIDS activist Dominic D'Souza. Uh, what are the challenges when you're writing a script based on a real life story?
See, the thing is, something that I have been always talking about. For me, My Brother Nikhil is inspired by Dominic D'Souza's
Yeah.
story. I read about him, I edited, and I was inspired by it, but I was not trying to tell a story,
Mm.
because of various reasons. Because I know that, very often when you are doing a biopic, this is not a biopic. My Brother Nikhil
Mm.
is not a
Mm.
biopic. But when you're doing a biopic, the biggest challenge becomes cinema is not necessarily a documentation of reality. It is the
Yeah.
way you, as a filmmaker, you interpret and present that reality for a different cause, maybe for what inspires you, what to create your magic, right?
Mm.
It's not That's the difference between a documentary film, even a documentary film as a perspective. But when it comes to fiction, yeah. So for me, when I was making My Brother Nikhil, and that's why it's not called Dominic D'Souza,
Yeah.
is how you can imagine in 2005 it was not easy to get finance for a film with a gay protagonist. Okay,
Yeah.
plus AIDS. As So how to not just make a film and say that, oh, I made this film based on this person, and you know very often people don't realize that there is a huge economics and logistics, connected to filmmaking. Unlike, suppose, if one had to do a painting or write a book, it's much more personalized. Here, be it in terms of the finance, be it in terms of the people, so it's a much larger scale. It's a filmmaking is a community affair almost.
Mm,
So
yeah.
for me, it was important to figure out how can I tell the essence of the story to a large audience, to reach out to an audience which is homophobic largely,
Mm,
to in a nation where homosexuality is still criminalized, where AIDS is still a big taboo, you know, where there are various stereotypes to do with be it AIDS, be it homosexuality. And for me, it was important to address those challenges and design the film in a way where I could speak to my audience. I didn't
mm,
want it to be a film where I only pat myself and ultimately, uh, and go to some festivals, but people for whom it's made,
right,
don't
right,
get to see the film or don't connect to the film.
right. Do you think it would be easier to make that film now?
I wouldn't make that film right now. For me, that that needed, the magic was about doing it then. You
Mm,
know, why would I want to not be the first one to have done it and
yeah,
do it
yeah,
50
yeah.
years later?
Right.
So I feel that having, I feel very, very, very fortunate that I had so many people who believed in me and the film, and it would happen as one of the first mainstream Hindi films
Yeah.
with a gay protagonist. So I rather be that, and I always believe in that because I think, when you have challenges, you come up with something beautiful. So you
Mm,
don't want those challenges to be taken away. And now, 15 years later, I'm still making films which have queer themes, and there are still newer challenges. So
mm,
it's not that those challenges ever stop. It's just that it keeps changing according to who is the political party in power, what is the current
ah,
scenario around. So it keeps changing. So
right,
one has enough challenges to deal with anyway.
right. Your film, I Am, it focuses on four stories. And usually, what surprised me about I Am and was a very interesting thing was usually an anthology film tends to have multiple directors, like each person handling a separate story. In this case, you've directed the entire film and you've also written it along with Urmi Juvekar and Mel Kroger. So when you're in charge of an entire anthology, how do you figure which stories to have together in a single
Yeah.
piece of work?
So, the thing is, if you notice, the big difference is again, I think when I made I Am in 2009 is when I started shooting, 9 and 10 when I shot. Those were the early days of anthology. There were not too many films in that genre being made.
Yeah.
And whoever made anything similar, it was one director, right?
Mm,
It's only now that you see this whole tendency of various directors because these are uh, quote unquote projects which are assigned by either OTT platforms or someone decides, okay, let me put together, this will be an exciting project. So
yeah.
for me, I was not doing an exciting project that anyone assigned me to do. These were
Yeah.
stories that really moved me, like the story of Dominic that had moved me. All the stories of I Am were also inspired by real life stories, and I wanted to make them honestly as feature films, but I was not getting finance. And then I thought that why there was something that was, you know, which was common in all these stories, that they were talking about identity, they were talking about um, discovering the self, they were talking about human rights in various
Yeah.
ways. And I thought that why not make them as short stories, raise finance separately, and combine them through characters. Because if you look at what you call as anthologies now, they're not connected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and at that time there was no platform that one could go to. If I had made them as short films, it would not get released. Okay, so I was, so you have to think that the whole process of writing the film, making it, had different logistics and reasons. One was finance, big reason that I decided, okay, I won't write it as a feature. Let us start working on them as short. Okay, then we realize, okay, shorts though will not get released. There is no returns. What do you
Mm,
do? So then you decide that, okay, let's connect it through characters so that it can be released as one film. You know,
right.
so all these various logistical purposes also contributed to the structure of I Am. So they are so that it became more like one film with four stories. You know,
Mm.
uh, similar to what Anurag had done in I forgot the Metro, but in Metro
Ah,
they were parallelly running. The
right, right,
stories
right,
were running parallelly,
right, right.
but he had also, but again, if you see there, it was one director, Ram Gopal Verma,
Yes.
one director with various I think not Das Kahani, something he did, no, with I think Das Kahani was
Das Kahaniyan? Sanjay
Ram
Gupta.
Gopal Verma. No, sorry, that is Sanjay Gupta. But Ram Gopal Verma also did
Ah,
something
yes.
about
Darna Mana hai,
Dana
I think.
Mana.
Yeah,
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 but
yeah,
I'm saying something about boots.
yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the
So
horror.
then,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think at that time, many of us, we were experimenting, but we were all doing it for for us. It was not, again, it was not a project. It was not something that, okay, the platform says that we want to do something which is LGBTQI. Can you all think of four directors and four
Right, right.
story? It's not like that. It's much more organic. So
True.
very often, if you see today's anthologies, sometimes they're not really linked together by soul.
Mm,
Sometimes they're just there, four stories.
right, right. What part of the writing process do you enjoy? Is there anything specific?
Ah, the thing is, I think I'm not really a writer. I just sometimes I end up writing. Sometimes when I really like, because I don't follow the classical process of,
Mm,
okay, you first write a small synopsis, and then you have
yeah,
the plot points, and then you go for screenplay, and then you go for dialogue. I remember My Brother Nikhil, it was actually the fifth script I wrote, but right from my first script to My Brother Nikhil, whenever I wrote right in the first draft with dialogues. Okay,
okay,
without knowing where my story is. Sometimes I know where it's going to end, sometimes I don't know when it's going to end. So what
okay.
I enjoy is, sometimes you just feel that, because when I'm writing with dialogues, I'm also imagining, and sometimes when I can feel the moment, I feel extremely satisfied. I remember during My Brother Nikhil, very often, for me it was almost like having conversations with the different characters. I could hear them speak to
Mm,
me as I would write, and sometimes I would feel so overwhelmed that I would stop. So I knew that I was very, very invested. And then sometimes when you're writing some other script, there are times that I've got stuck, and for months I've not been able to
mm,
write. And sometimes at that point, I reach out to co-writers, you know,
yeah,
and work. And sometimes after, a gap, when I revisit, suddenly the end just comes. Sometimes the beginning and end, the middle, you're lost. So I
yeah.
think each story takes different, when you're working with each script, and especially because I'm not trained as a writer, I don't follow the process of, quote unquote,
Okay, yeah.
process of writing. I feel that each time I get lost in a different way, and each time I try and find my, uh, because for me, I don't like anything left unfinished. So I keep,
Mm,
sometimes it takes years and years and years. Right now, I'm working
yeah.
on a script which is called The Face, and I realized that, shit, I started writing it in 2008 or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I don't give up. I keep
Mm,
working on it. I keep working on it. And it keeps evolving because I change as a person. And sometimes some bits of that script goes into one of the films that I'm making. So then this has to
Yeah,
change so that it is, there's
right.
something new. So I feel that for me, every time it's a discovery, when I'm writing.
The recent film that I saw of yours was Kuchh Bheege Alfaaz, and I really enjoyed it. Uh, it's got such a beautiful script by Abhishek Chatterjee, and I wanted to know how you, as a director, collaborate with another writer to bring this story alive. Because you've also, as a
I
director, conveyed it so well.
I always feel like, I always like to work with, I don't like to only work on my scripts. I like to work with other writers because I feel that is my growth. That's how, otherwise it's too much of yourself. And that's why also I don't like writing a film by Onir. I prefer it going directed by Onir because I feel it's too much of ego when you put it as a film
Mm,
by. I mean, come on, there are like hundreds of people working, putting in their energy, love, and at least I believe that's how my films happen. It's the energies of so many people coming together. So I think Abhishek's script, I was actually the script mentor for the Sundance Drishyam script lab.
okay.
And I was reading through various scripts, and when I read this, I was, I really loved it, and I could
Yeah.
connect it. and and I feel that when I reached out to Abhishek, because initially when it came to me as a writer director, that. So I was like, okay, are you okay with me directing it? And I think he was comfortable with, he knew my work, and he was really happy that I wanted to direct it. So and he knew that probably if he would direct the film, it would be different. I'm not talking about bad or good.
Right. Right.
It would be a different film. And I think when a writer accepts that, you know it is, at the same time, whenever in the shoot, and that's a practice with me, I usually like to have my writer, so Abhishek would be there at the shoot. So if there are things that I would want to make changes,
Mm,
and if my writer is not there, I will always call up my writer and tell that, listen, this is, I'm changing the dialogue here, I'm changing this bit here, because
okay.
I feel the script belongs to the writer.
Mm, yeah.
So I feel that, I feel once that trust factor is there, that no one is, whatever changes, whatever I would like to do is comes from the space that I believe that I want to do something good for the,
Yeah.
and same, believe that the writer would also feel that way about the film. Having said that, of course, the writer has to accept that at the end of the day, it's the director's vision that will come out in the film. And when that acceptance is there, I think it's quite easy to work together.
During the editing process of the film, do you also sit with the writers and sort of discuss how the film is shaping up?
Not really, not in terms of discussing how it's shaping up, but I always, like, when we have the first cut or whatever, the writer is a very important part of seeing the edit and seeing how the pacing is happening. And it also depends on the film. Sometimes you need
Mm,
to shoot something extra, or do things. So and if there are different schedules, you always, see something and feel that, okay, maybe this needs a little bit work. So it
right.
depends on the film. But otherwise, when it comes to editing, I let the first cut be the editor's cut. You know,
Mm,
each department, I feel, for me, each department, head of department is important. And you need to, as a director, step back and let the editor, you know, bring in their skills, their talent, their imagination, their art
right.
into what you have shot. And then again, of course, as a filmmaker, but you should let them have the possibility of presenting something maybe that you might not have thought of,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
because what you have in your mind is there, but you should be open to seeing some more options before deciding what you go for.
Okay. Besides directing fiction, you've also made documentaries. You made a documentary called Raising the Bar, which focuses on people with Down syndrome and their triumphs. That really caught my attention because I myself have a brother with Down syndrome. So I was curious to know, how did you find the subject matter?
Actually, mostly subjects find me,
Uh,
one of our very close friends, her daughter, she has Down syndrome, and she was talking to me that they were planning to make a documentary and looking for a filmmaker, and it didn't take me a minute. I just said, I think I'll do it, and it is not because of me feeling bad or nothing. I
yeah,
just felt
yeah,
I
yeah,
could identify, because I feel that it's all about, it's ultimately, what is this film about? For me, it was a film that celebrated inclusion, diversity, and
mm,
love, and that is what my, voice has been always for. Be it for how different is it, if how can inclusion for someone who is specially able be different from someone from the queer community. It's ultimately the same.
right. Mm,
Different people are discriminated because of different reasons. And for me, uh, I just thought that, we need to be voices. We need to, if I could be a voice to celebrate the beauty that they have, I want to be a part of that, because this is what I've been always looking for.
yeah. When I looked up your production company, Anti Clock Films, on YouTube, I noticed that the channel has this series called On the Roads with Onir, where you travel across the country. There's a series called Kitchen Corner, where you and other people cook different recipes. You even have a film club where you showcase a lot of short films. So I can imagine it's very important to you to have a variety of pursuits and interests besides filmmaking. Is that a right assumption?
Absolutely. I feel that, there's so much to life, that as a filmmaker, you grow when you keep every window open. And as a person, I love traveling, and I thought that, okay, why not share what I learn, what I experience during this travel, with people who care about what I think or feel, and I thought that I realized that when I was consciously doing that, I was actually looking at things more carefully. I was learning more about them, because earlier, if I would go to a place and just look and say, wow, it's beautiful. Now I want to know the history. I want to know what happened, why this, so I feel that as a person, my curiosity is growing. And
Yeah,
through them, I'm also ending up meeting people, because wherever I'm traveling, for whatever reason, I'm always thinking, okay, what is special in this place? Is the food, or there is something, that, so there is a constant discovery. And similarly, I think the kitchen corner and the film club thing happened during the lockdown, because
yeah,
I was sitting at home, and this was the first lockdown, and I could see that so many people were getting, you know, frustrated what to do with time, people, especially from the film. So I thought, why not start this competition,
right.
where every week I put out a theme, people start making 2 minutes film, and at the end of it, the winners get to work with me. And there was, I mean, I had about 470 films that came to me, and
Wow.
kept me occupied every week,
Yeah,
looking through them, figuring out the new set of juries, because reached out to my filmmaker friends, critics, everybody, to be a part of, you know But I used to watch every film. I used to give anyone wanted a detailed feedback of why it got rejected, each and every email I replied. And I
Okay.
also learned so much about how younger people are thinking in terms of, how they use the mobile, storytelling,
Hmm.
thoughts, TikTok, everything,
Yeah.
and it was, I think it kept me busy, and it also gave that, a lot of people later thanked me after the challenge got over, that why don't you transform it into a club, because a lot of people met each other, young
Ah.
filmmakers, and they became friends through this exercise, and they thought
Okay.
that let's keep it alive. But unfortunately, after a few months, once I started my work, it became difficult. Then I thought,
Ah.
okay, every year I'll try and do something, a
Right. Right.
short competition or not.
It's a wonderful thing. I think it builds a community as well. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Now, one aspect of your films that I really enjoy are the performances, and you've worked with so many fine actors. Whether it's Sanjay Suri or Gitanjali Thapa, Shabana Azmi, Urmila Matondkar. Like the list goes on. There's so many. Like I Am itself has such a huge ensemble cast. How is your process like working with actors? Do you have a way of directing them?
Uh, I feel it again changes from actor to actor. If
Mm.
someone who's been there for a long time, or if someone is totally new, then
Yeah.
your approach obviously changes. But I feel the one common factor is to let them own the character. Let the actors own their character in a way, like suppose till today Juhi Chawla is saved on my phone as Anu, which was what I used to call her in the sets of My Brother Nikhil. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so I have this thing of trying to also uh, engage my actors in building the characters. So for example, Pura would go to Anita Dongre's workshop when she was doing the clothes, and he would paint the t-shirts that Nigel wore. Okay. Or he would come with me, and we would together write poetry in the walls of the room that was supposed to be his room. So an actor becomes actively a part of the character to build his surrounding. Similarly, when I'm working with new actors, like for example, when I was relatively new but wonderful actor like Gitanjali, you know,
Oh yeah.
I like we suppose when we decided the costumes, I told her, okay, now 1 month before the film started, I gave her all the clothes. I said, you keep wearing them, and don't get your own personal clothes to the set when you come to Calcutta. Get You should pack this in your suitcase. The production is not getting it. And every day, you as Archana decide what you wear when you go to bed, what you wear when you go to office. My assistants will keep track of continuity, but you
Okay.
decide. Similarly, I would
Okay.
tell her that why don't you write to me the story about Archana before the film starts, and where she goes after the film ends. And then when she described about her father, mother, her home in Darjeeling, then me and Abhishek sat on the script again and changed things in the script.
Okay.
Lots bits of it coming from the stories that she had written. Okay.
Oh.
So there is, then I went and raided her wardrobe, and I also took some clothes from there, you know. So there were things that when she walked into the place where we were shooting, that she would identify, because it came from the way she imagined the character. So I feel that I spend a lot of, it's new, we do a lot of workshop, but workshop is more to do with the past, so
Mm.
that that person knows, you know, how the entire life of the character till that point. So
Right.
it's
Right.
not
Right.
just the script that that person is living.
Right. Right. And like when you mentioned the story about Gitanjali Thapa, I guess it also depends. Like because you work with experienced actors and new actors, it's very important that they have the right instincts for this part.
So I'll get talk to you about like the first film. Juhi Chawla comes to me the first day and she's like, okay, this is my 77th film and this is your first film, but you have to tell me what to do.
Uh,
Everything. Okay, so Juhi was a person that before every shot I would go to her and we would sit and I would describe to her state of mind before and after, and go through. I would, have my floor plan and say that, okay, you walk from here to here, I want you to look there and I want you at this point to cry. I would tell her in detail, and then she would just, of course, bring in what she has, to that. But there was an entire, it was like, okay, the skeleton is this, and then she would add on the meat.
yeah,
So that comes with someone like, when you have an experienced
right. Yeah,
actor on board.
yeah,
But sometimes there are times when it's also a problem, because
right.
sometimes actors think that they want to give their very best,
Yeah,
which sometimes is maybe not what you want, and sometimes it's very, very difficult to accept no, because they are genuinely with a lot of love doing
mm,
that.
right.
And that is with some people, because of the, see, the thing is, I am working in a non-mainstream space but with mainstream actors.
Right.
So to break their mindset about a certain kind of makeup, a certain kind of acting is not easy. With someone like Juhi, it was very easy, but sometimes it's not as easy with all other mainstream
Mm.
actors.
There's a separate process altogether. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is a necessary skill or quality to have when you want to write a film?
You should, one is, God, there are too many things I feel, because I am reacting in a way where it comes from the number of people who message me, every week, saying I have a story and I have a script, you know, and sometimes you are just like tired because most of
Mm.
them have, no idea of what is happening in the world of cinema,
Mm.
so, and whom they're approaching for what. I get messages like this: Sir, I have an Oscar winning horror comedy script for you. You trust me. And like, with the very that line, it's all wrong.
Right, right. Yeah.
So I feel that everybody thinks they're like, a lot of people, every second person thinks they're an actor, every second person thinks they're a writer.
Mm.
you know just like now with every mobile phone, everyone thinks they're a filmmaker
Right,
also.
right.
So I feel that writing is, just because you have a story does not make you a writer is a skill.
Mm.
Of course there is something natural, but at the same time that you need to also learn the process, for whichever way there are exceptions, but you need to learn, you need to be aware of, okay, depends on which genre you're getting, know that kind of film. Okay, know, recognize what is special in the story that you want to tell.
Yeah.
Why should anyone be interested in that story? What is unique about that story? So I feel that to be alert, to look out for something that is unique, makes a good script.
Right, right. In all your years uh, in the film industry, what's one very valuable lesson you've learned as a filmmaker?
Valuable lesson that I've learned is, don't let your dreams be chained by the box office.
Mm.
You know, don't value yourself. It's important to be able to objectively look at your own work and not go by, because there are, I feel that a good film has a life much beyond box office or critic, or things keep changing all the time, perspective and all. So if you believe in yourself and if you believe in the story that you want, don't let these external factors stop you. That, oh my
Mm,
god, my film is not, Friday means I'll stop making films. It's not work. Don't let that happen. I feel that
right.
is, and if you, I feel that if you really, really want to tell a story, and if you really, I believe that you can find ways. You have to learn how to navigate, but it's not impossible. And today with digital media, it's even much more accessible, you know, to do what you want to do. And when I see young filmmakers like Rima Das, I feel
Yeah.
extremely inspired to see how, and I keep telling people that don't give me this excuse that I don't have money, I don't have support. I've heard this so much that the minute this tone starts, I switch off,
Yeah.
and I always tell them that, can't, I mean, look at that lady, she directed, produced, wrote, shot, edited
Yeah.
everything in a small village, and it went to Oscars from India.
Yeah.
Her second film, Bulbul Can Sing, has been traveling, and they made for on 5 lakh, 7 lakh. She learned the camera on YouTube, watched the kind of films that would help her with that. So, if you really are passionate, then look at people whom you should. Then, if you watch Tigers in the Eye for inspiration, nothing happens. You know. So, I feel that people look at the wrong inspirations,
Mm,
and they have no ability. A lot of people don't have the ability to really, understand that, do they really love filmmaking or acting, or they like the whole glamour thing that's been associated with the
yeah.
perks,
Yeah. Yeah.
the so-called perks. And I
Right.
think that it's sad, but most people, when they say that I'm passionate about filmmaking or acting, what they mean is the perks, not the
Yeah.
actual craft.
Right. Yeah. On that note, thank you so much, Onir, for doing this. It's been an honor talking to you. Uh,
Pleasure.
we look forward to what you do next. And yeah, thanks. Thanks again.
Thank you and good luck. Stay safe.
Take care. If you enjoyed this interview, please hit that like button and please do comment below. Let me know what are your thoughts. If you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button for more such videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.